What's up, guys? So we're going to talk about a concept called prophylaxis in chess. Now, normally I know it's a mostly used as a medical term in terms of trying to prevent something bad from happening, like an illness or something, by administering a vaccine. Now, in chess-wise, it is about anticipating your opponent's plan and trying to stopping it before actually they enact it. Now, you can never ignore your opponent's last move. You can't pretend that their plan doesn't exist. Half of the game happens because of you and because of them, the other half. So you always have to pay attention to your opponent's intention and plan. And if there's something very bad looming over the horizon, you've got to stop it. Now, you would say in this position here, my chess friends, that bishop g4 now makes just a pin, right? And you might be tempted to do, developing, going further into the opponent territory and stuff like that. But actually, you need to ask yourself, what is something else that they plan on doing after bishop g4, which definitely pins the knight? Well, if you just spend a couple of more seconds, you might be able to actually recognize that actually black intends to also playing the knight to d4. And actually we're having this kind of situation that is called putting pressure on the pin piece. Put PP on the PP, they say. So pressure on the pin piece. And we've got to stop this from happening. Now, a move like h3, for instance, asks the question to the bishop, and now black needs to take decision. Obviously, they can't play knight d4 now because you're going to be winning a piece. Okay, so they will either have to move away the bishop or they trade, in which case you're doing absolutely fine. You got rid of the pin, you take back with the queen to f3, and even if they play now knight to d4, just remember queen is being hit and c2. And fortunately for white, you are able to play a move now that both defends the queen and protects the c2 by very nicely and elegantly dropping queen over to d1, and that's it. You got no problem whatsoever. On the contrary, now you've got a very nice outpost here, then you might be able to kick the black knight away, and things are doing very well for white in this position. Again, just worth reminding, the fact you're having a better position than your opponent doesn't mean that's a guarantee you're going to win, but you have an increased chance at winning the game, provided you play accurately and the correct moves for the remainder of the game. Okay, let's go for the next position here. What do you think black wants to do in this situation we're having now on the board? Well, they play bishop g4. First thing first, they might be very interested in making it a mess and isolating your pawn. I think we should be dedicating at some point another chapter to the pawn islands. So if this were to happen, we're going to be having isolated, and isolated. This is bad, particularly in the end. You want your pawns connected ideally. And there is another idea you have to be aware of. Black rook also wants to, for instance, play on e2. So that's another stuff that we have to be careful with. We must stop actually two things at the same time. And luckily, we do have the resource to just do that by playing knight to d4. What does that mean? You no longer be having isolated pawns, so the bishop can't capture because it don't exist over there, and you are stopping any rook coming to e2. All is good. Now, if rook goes for this guy, you have to pause it, look at the position, what can I possibly do? And hopefully you will notice, guys, there is an idle knight on the rim. You don't want to keep this knight here forever. And actually you can put it to good work now and having the perfect response for this position by placing knight to c5. And now your knight is actually active here. It defends the pawn and you're doing very well. And if your opponent wants to complicate things a bit more, okay, rather than rushing, it's very important in chess, particularly if you're not playing bullet type of chess, in which you just have to react like a maniac, moving quickly and stuff like that. Give it a few moments, give it a few seconds. Hey, give it a minute. If you play rapid or classical time control, give it more time and look at the position. Sometimes when your opponent poses a problem, maybe ask yourself, can I create a bigger problem? Can I create a bigger threat? Okay, so now if you're looking, the king is eager to step into the fray here. So you're going to play king to f2, attacking the rook. So that's an awesome way to activate your king, make the opponent's rook moving away, and now you can contemplate what do I do with that rook on a1, because guys, always important, if you have open, semi-open files, get the rooks on the open files and activate your pieces and take a lot of squares. In this position here would be super nice to get rook from A to C, targeting a potential weakness here, already attacked by the knight, but you want your guys to being active, plus the knight was attacking your knight, so you have to defend them, and not just a simple defense, even if you consider if the knight were to take, your rook takes back, and you're suddenly attacking on c6, and it's looking very optimistic for white here. Let's move to the next position. What do you think white wants to play? If you are to giving white one extra move in this very position now, what do you think they want to do? Don't ignore your opponent plan. Never, ever, ever ignore them. Think what on earth they want to do. If you were to give them one more move now, what do you think white's going to do? Well, they want to play something like rook d6, checking the king. Unfortunately, you're going to have to drop the king back somewhere, and by doing so, you're allowing the white king to infiltrate itself on b5, thus putting a very serious risk on the a5 pawn, and actually you're kind of getting in trouble. So you must prevent this from happening. Once you understand what's your opponent's most dangerous move, you might be able to play a prophylactic move before the bad thing happens. You're actually stopping it. You prevent the bad thing from happening because you have the necessary wisdom and knowledge to stop this. You know, like administering a vaccine to prevent something incredibly bad for developing further down the evolution. So now you're going to go with rook to f7. You're checking the king. You attack it on c5 now. King will have to move, and when they move, oh, thank you very much. You took a pawn here on the H file, which means you have just created a passer. In principle, good. Now, it's not over. They go back. You play again. A little bit like of a windmill type of attitude. You delivering another check here. Unfortunately for them, because they can't block, you've got a pawn, and actually that's going to be losing terribly. That would be actually a blunder. They will have to move again, and then whoop, you take another pawn. Thank you very much. And now it's looking really, really, really good. If they are stubborn and move the king back on c5, you're going to delivering a check. They're going to be moving back. You're going to be playing your guy here, and potentially you know, in principle, you might be delivering another check, training off. So it's looking really good. Now black is supposed to be winning here. You've created the passer. The king very nicely fixes a weakness, and you should be able at some point to win with black. Again, you've got a better position. Awesome. It doesn't mean now you're going to win. I mean, it's not a guarantee unless you play accurately for the remainder of the game. Now, let's just do a couple of more exercises. Give it a couple of seconds, guys, and ask yourselves, what is the black queen doing on e5? Just look at a position. What exactly do they attack here? Now, we can disregard the c3 because it's defended by the rook, and obviously, queen is not going to take that pawn, but actually they do something else. They're actually attacking the bishop on e4, and they're attacking the bishop on g5. So you have to do something about it. And that's not about moving the bishop, because if you move a bishop, the other bishop's going to drop. Okay? So you need to find another move that actually defends both weaknesses simultaneously. If you don't do that, you're going to get in trouble. But fortunately for white, there is a move and a very important resource now. And if you play it, you're going to be defending both weaknesses at once. Thank you very much. Queen g4. Probably you've noticed this, guys. And not just that defends the two bishops, also makes a bit of a pressure on this knight here on e7. So you're doing very well. If you're thinking, yeah, but what if they play something like h5? They might. But now you're going to be eliciting a queen straight, and you're going to be doing better than black after queen to e6, checking here. And obviously, queens are going to come off the board. If they don't do it, you're going to do it. And the position is better for white. You're doing very nice, very cool, and you should be fine. Next position here. You must play one particular move here. And if you don't play it, I think you are worsening the position for white. There is one move that will be saving, allowing you to draw in this very position. So you got to be very aware that actually black wants to moving forwards and then getting a queen here. This is something you can't ignore. So you definitely need to be looking at a move like in this very special position, something like knight takes on d3, and when bishop takes back, your knight. Oops, well, I wanted to explain, but then I pressed too quickly on the button, so we're moving forward to the next exercise here. So let's identify here in this exercise, my chess friends, the next correct move for white. Because if you're watching black's position here, they actually really want to activate the bishop on b7 by playing c5, which makes a lot of sense for black. So once you understand this, you need to figure out how on earth do I stop black from playing c6 to c5. How exactly you're going to stop this from happening? And there is a very good move you should do this straight away with b2 to b4. And that totally stops black. They can't play the c5. You're going to play a fork here. It's devastating for black. And even if they try to undermine what a5 making in you, you know, they're trying to tempt you, just don't forget, always it's worth attention, something like this. But nevertheless, b4, it's one of those moves that totally discourages black from playing c6 to c5. Keep this in mind, guys. Always collect the data. Ask yourselves, what does my opponent want to do with the last move they played? Once you understand it, you might be able to find the correct way to stopping it from happening. Remember, prophylaxis. You stop the bad stuff before it happens. And next exercise here. Now, the bishop threatens to take the queen. This is serious. And there is another threat here. Queen on f3 attacks the pawn on h5. So we got actually two stuff that we need to addressing. Now, unfortunately for black, there is no back rank check with, winning a tempo and then you figure out what to do to defending h5. You can't do that because all those squares are covered by white pieces. And the most important thing, you have to save your queen. Now, luckily for black here, you could play a move that not just saves the queen, but creates a bigger threat to your opponent. You're going to be saving the queen, and you're going to be attacking the white rook. And that is the tempo that black needs here in order then to address the other weakness on h5, either by playing the king or something else. Depends what white plays. Okay? So the white rook now needs to move. And whatever they move, you've got the tempo then to try and figure out how to protect the other weakness on h5. Because you got 5 black pawns, white is having 4 white pawns, you should be better here than you are better than white, provided you will take care of their weakness. Every pawn matters absolutely, and you can't afford the luxury to give them nothing if you want to win. So guys, I hope this was concluded. I hope you guys understand. Shall we try one more time? One more exercise here? Okay, let's just go one more time. Now, this is maybe the most complex one, but it's nice, it's good, and it's important that we guys understand as much as possible. I'll try to explain as clearly as I can. You might be saying that rook 8 to c8 is just something that's not going to pay off because you got a knight here and there is a pawn stopping the pawn, so you won't be moving the knight in order to being threatened by the battery formed of the rook and queen hitting on c2. But there is a subtlety here. I don't know if you noticed, but there is a knight and especially there is a bishop targeting the e4. What does that mean? Let's say you're playing something like, just give an example, you're playing something like bishop e2, just give like random move, so to speak, or you're going to play something else, I don't know, like taking here or something. You always need to ask yourself, what do they want to do? And actually, if you just think about the fact that the bishop can take on e4, attacking your queen, you can't just ignore if that move were to happen. You have to react. And guess what happens when you react by taking with your knight on e4 here? Well, bishop takes e4, knight takes e4, and black is not going to take back. No. There is a battery here. Rook f8 and queen, rook c8 and queen c7. And actually, they want to take on c2. And not just a simple check here. It's actually devastating here because you're getting checked here. And it just doesn't look very good. And then they will be taking on e4. So you got to be very aware of this stuff. And if you can stop it, stop it. Okay? And a very nice way would be something like bishop d3, which is the only correct move to play here. And now you've got no problem here. Black king is not castled just yet, and if they castle on the king side, you will break through. You will blast open all the lines here. Everything's going to get open here, and you should be absolutely fine. You should be winning here with white. Better position, better attacking chances if you just pay attention to this kind of details and do not allow the bad things to happen. You are anticipating your opponent's plan and try to reply, stopping this from happening. So guys, thank you for watching this. Today's lesson was on prophylaxis. And again, subscribe to this channel, YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitch as well for my live streams. And maybe we can have a couple of friendlies and analyze some of your games and be discussing some chess topics together. Thank you very much, guys, and see you soon.